Hey everybody, on here, and I'm coming to you with this month's video. Obviously I made it outside. Imagine that for the Connecting Codes video. That's unusual because I don't think I ever really film outside, because usually I don't have the space, the time, the place where I'm going to be uninterrupted. So hopefully this is going to work out. But maybe it'll keep the video shorter and doing everything. I am out here just taking a little time. I'm on a very unique day. Jessie, who started all of this work, she departed on this day 8 years ago. I'm losing track of time. It's actually been, I think, 7 years ago. I'll get it straight eventually. So that brought me in full time. You can read more about that story on my website, compassioncodes.com. Check out the About section up there, and it'll fill you in on all that background about what I'm talking about. But you know, this is for our world events and what's coming up in October, what's going on. And you know, I thought, wow, the weather's so great today. Why not get out here and you know, have a little scenery to look at while I got a chance to do it. And because it's going to turn cold here, we're hitting freezing temps this weekend, and then we are going to warm up for an Indian summer, and then we'll be back in the cold again. So up here in the Northeast, it's beautiful. If you have a chance to get out and check things out, do it. But right now I want to move on to this because I don't want to run out of camera power while I'm videoing this. This is going to be for our influences coming up in October and the world events that are happening there, and what we can expect and look forward to. So we're going to cover the things that are happening and how that's going to be playing out in our world, how our energetic influences play out, because they really do show us. They're not going to give us these sort of details like on such and such a date this particular thing is going to happen, but it will show us the types of energies that are present, things that are potential, things to be aware of, things to be alert to. And that's really what this is about. It's not about predicting things so much as it about being aware of the energy currents that are present, so that we know how to put ourselves in a good place to deal with that and to handle that and to be prepared for what's going on in the world. And I think that that's so important to do. So getting started on our main monthly events for October, and this is for October 2025. We want to be seeing people, we're going to be seeing people looking at life and how they are living it. So there's going to be a lot of reflection. A lot of people are going to be questioning, how am I living my life? And, you know, of course, we all know the big Charlie Kirk assassination happened, and that's affecting a lot of people, and I think that's probably one of the many catalysts that are going to be leading people into this reflection. What am I doing? What am I prioritizing? What am I making important in my life? How am I living my life? What is going on? And that's going to come up a lot for people, and that's going to start to affect what they are supporting, what they are doing. And no, there's always going to be extremists out there on both sides of the fence, but that being said, I think some of these things, like a big catalyst that has impacted a lot of people, whatever that is, and I do not condone any sort of violence. I just don't believe that that is the path, and I don't believe it's necessary, even though I do understand all the components of defense and all of these other things. I don't believe that that is our path, truly and honestly, and I believe there are other ways besides violence. And so these things do come up, and they are going to have an impact on people, and if we can use them as positive catalyst, and I think that that is part of the important piece, is for us to take a look and say, have we gotten out of hand with things? Have we gone too far with things? And I think there are some people starting to see that, and they're starting to come, as I'd like to say, back into center a little bit more. And I think that that's important. That's going to help us balance out, and that's going to help us start to work together even where we have different views on things. Now, a lot of people also are seeking, or will probably be seeking during October, a simpler life, authenticity, and especially this time of year where a lot of emotions get stirred up and people are naturally starting to move towards family things and all of these different celebrations. And I think more and more it causes people to reflect. Remember when we didn't have to worry about kids going down the neighborhood in costumes, or, you know, we didn't have to worry about our kids playing outside and who might take them or things like that. I mean, I think there's more and more of a craving for that, and we want to use those cravings to help make the shifts and changes in our world. How do we get back to being a safer world again? How do we get back to living through values and principles? It shouldn't matter what your belief systems are, there's core values and principles that run through all of them. And I think that if we can uphold that, that is going to be an important and valuable piece in things. A lot of people are going to be opening up to gratitude for what they have. And I think, again, the Charlie Kirk thing is a great example, and a lot of people are up and aware on that, of being grateful for what we have. Too often we take things for granted. We take for granted our rights, we take for granted our freedoms, our families, our ability to have food, our ability to have shelter, a lot of those things. And we never know when it can be taken to us. And, you know, we can all relate to that person who has maybe passed suddenly in our life, whoever that has been, and how that hits us. And so this is going to really have a big impact on the way people are choosing to live their lives. And why is that important when it comes to politics? Why is that important in our world events? Because when people start to restructure their priorities, it's going to influence who they're going to vote for. It's going to influence the policies that they get behind. It's going to influence what they are willing to tolerate in their own communities. And there comes a point, and I'm seeing more and more of it, even in my community, where there's a lot of extremists in my community, a lot of very strong personalities in my community. And I'm even starting to see it where people are like, we need to get back to these core values. And they're coming out of some of these spaces saying, no, these are the important things. These are the things we got to pay attention to. And so it does create shifts and changes in our world. So I find this a very positive thing. It's always hopeful when I see some of these things come up, because when we get back to values and priorities, we get back to that simplicity and that authenticity that's so important. We're going to see an increase in victim abuser patterns, though, in this time. And we're seeing that we are never a victim regardless of our challenges. And I think this is important. More and more people are starting to realize, look, I don't have to be in that victim space. Whatever the challenges are, they're challenges. And we need to face them and not just reside on them in this helpless mindset. And this is another piece that comes with bringing forth the values and the priorities, because when we focus on those values and priorities, we will get out of the victim space. We find the motivation to get up and do something. We find the encouragement to say, yeah, it's hard, it's tough, it's challenging, it's going to wear on us, but we can get through it. And we do have to be careful, though, of falling into those patterns, because certainly anytime a corrupt force, a force that is working against God or divine source in the world, is losing power, it's going to do more and more to gain power and control. It becomes more abusive because it has this fear and this threat, and it wants to divide people even more. So we need to be alert to that and not play into these divisions. And, you know, it's been so strange for me. I regularly kind of stop and pause and go, it's so strange that politics is like the big fad these days. To me, that's just so strange, because it's such a divisive place. It's such a divisive zone, and how it just tears people apart instead of actually bringing them together. And I think on one hand it's good, because then people are aware to things that they have not been paying attention to. On the other hand, it can be very detrimental, and it can just absorb us and consume us and make us controllable and make us want to be acceptable in different ways. And it can make us sacrifice values and principles in order to be accepted or to protect ourselves or to keep our families safe. And of course we all want to keep our families safe and all of that, but they're never going to be that if we go into this compliance of what corrupt factions or forces or groups or things like that want. And when we comply to those who operate in violence and who call death upon people and who call for assassinations on people and things like that, we're not there. You know, we're just not there. We're turning our power over to the very thing that is working against what we actually want. So we've got to be careful of that. Stay out of those patterns. You might want to check out my video on my regular channel under my name, Jessie on Nichols George, and take a look. This month's video is all about how working with the seasons and things can pull us out of victim spaces, and that might help you out with that piece of things. Some people are deliberately creating danger, challenges, chaos, confusion, squashing freedoms, censoring. I've noticed this again. It happens every year when we come up to election time. I get all this squashing, and I'm not even a big channel. I'm not like those big names out there. I don't have like massive followers and things like that, but they're censoring me. I see where people can't find my post. I see where you know, my views go from 1,000 views down to like 15 views or things like that. I mean, it's things that make no sense, that obviously there's some sort of suppression going on there. I've seen it where people couldn't share my post all of a sudden, or different pieces like that. So we have to kind of stand up. We have to find our so-called workarounds. We have to find our ways through. And I find a lot of times we've become very reliant on internet things because, yes, on one hand we can reach masses of people, but even more powerful than that is being face-to-face. So showing up at different things, not allowing our voices to be squashed. And that means we have to have some boundaries, and it's not about engaging in a battle, but it's about holding our boundaries and saying, yeah, this isn't going to work for me. Your suppression, your tactics, this is all about control, and calling it out for what it is, because that's exactly what it is power and control. We may see threats that are used to turn people against each other. So do not fall into this. We've seen this a few times, especially in our current administration, more so than at other times. And when you shut people off from knowing what is actually happening, and when I say that, I mean there have been people where there's proverbial inside sources, the people who are leaking to the corrupt factions are no longer privy to information. They start making up stories. And there's a lot of psyops going on. We already know that is present in some of the other energies, the code energies and the year influences and other shifts and world influences that are going on. And when that happens, we have to be very, very careful, because that takes us in a whole other direction that we don't want to go in. They start making up stories, and we just need to not buy into the narratives. When you start to see this division, just sit back and observe, because it may not truly be a division. It may just be somebody trying to drive a wedge between a strong faction of people. So when you have a strongly united large group of people, that doesn't work for corruption, because they have no power and influence over that. We want to see that we must know where we can and cannot make a difference. And this is important, because if we're forcing our way in an area that we cannot make a difference, then we're wasting our energy and our time, and we need to shift and look at, well, where can we have an influence? Where can we make a difference? And keep our focus on that. And that way we can maximize our time and our energy and our influence in things. We may see blocks on those that are working against divine alignment, which is great, which means we may see the threats, we may see them attempt things, but they probably won't be able to follow through or carry out on things. We want to be looking at how to purify things and bringing things into pure motive. So this is going to be probably things like seeing more cuts happening, seeing more things tapered off, seeing more things funding removed. And a lot of people get scared about that funding being removed from different organizations. it is going to come back. This is a temporary thing. Don't worry about it, really. This is just a temporary cutback to cut off these bigger sources of corruption that are funneling through these other organizations. So those organizations that are, it's just like doing a cleanse on your body or something like that, or going and getting the trash picked up around a trail or whatever. It is about purifying. And we have to sometimes purify everything and then re-implement it. We may have to cut things off and then re-implement funding on certain things once it's cleaned up. You know, it's like you have to remove those corrupt forces before you can move forward and actually do the work. Otherwise, you can't do the work that you need to do. So embrace that. Don't freak out over it. Don't worry about it. We're finding ways to help those in need. And that's going to be very important. And I think is going to be a focus coming out. We'll start to hear probably about some programs, whether this is more tax cuts or whether this is programs that are being implemented. We're going to be seeing those more vulnerable populations, people that are very low income, maybe somebody like myself, or people that are elderly, or people that are veterans, or things like that. And we're probably going to start to see some things opening up that will benefit them and help them. And that is always the key, to help your most vulnerable first, and then move towards the less and less vulnerable along the way. And that's how you open things up. And that's kind of really what we're seeing here. So bringing that out, and we're going to find more ways. And I think sometimes when people have certain fundings cut off, it helps them to get more creative, get back more to a community focus, which actually is a stronger sense of support than relying on all kinds of federal fundings and things in there. So always a balance in there. And then greed. We're going to see more greed exposed. So we recently just heard something about RFK Jr. Being part of a press conference and talking about the attempts of Big Pharma to buy out people and to bribe them. And some people misunderstood some of the clip that was out there regarding Trump on that, and they thought, oh, Trump took all of these bribes. No, he was offered bribes, but he didn't take the bribes. And there's a very big difference in there. So we have to be very careful, because again, these things that people put out, it's very tricky if we're not stopping and 100% focused listening to what is happening. And Trump acknowledged, yeah, they tried to bribe me with over $100 million. So looking at those components, you know, what does that do? That opens up, and then these investigations can happen, and then we can get everything cleaned up and purified. So we're going to see the greedy coming out. And of course, you know, on the positive side, they expose themselves very well when they come out with things. So doing that. Now, from the 1st through the 22nd, we have to be careful, because there's a tendency to make poor decisions. Things may have to be adjusted or redone later. And so we need to be careful. The decisions that are getting made at this time, if they're not sitting right well with you, there may be one more to them than what you're seeing in the moment, or they may be something that gets redone. They may be something that's only going to be temporary and then is like a stepping stone, or has to be corrected or adjusted later. So again, don't get too tied, too freaked out by some of the things that are happening. This is going to be a time to explore new options. So again, more opportunities, more people getting a little more creative. Well, what are our options for dealing with such and such? What are our options for handling certain things? Well, how do we proceed, and how do we do it in legal and ethical ways? And that's always the big key. There's a ton of ways to proceed with things. The question is how legal and ethical are they in the process? So doing that is going to be a big piece. And I think there will be new options, and this is a good time to do the exploring without completely fully making decisions on things. So this could be a good time to do some investigating on things, but not coming up with the final conclusions. And I realize that frustrates people at times when they're like, well, they're doing all this investigating, why don't we have answers yet? Well, sometimes you can't get answers. Sometimes the answers are not clear yet. So we're going to have a little bit of patience with that. We'll see things getting delayed, paused, put on hold, as values and worths have to be strengthened. So we have to strengthen our worth. We have to strengthen our value. And so that can create pauses and holds and delays on things. Again, have patience. Don't get frustrated with this. We want to do it right. We pretty much get one chance at some of the things we're doing in our world right now in political arenas, and if we don't do them right, everything's going to be lost. So it is worth taking the time to do it right. It's worth taking the time to make sure that things are really going to be able to be solidified and not just be undone easily and quickly along the way. We're going to see past things used to trigger and to justify cruelty and seeking revenge. We have to be careful of this, I think, on both sides of the fence. I can see this because when something hits somebody really strong, that's a natural reaction to want to take revenge. We have to be careful of overdoing things because it's a personal vendetta and not just something that's good for the country or the people or things like that. So we've got to be careful of those things. Also, I think there are going to be other components coming up in here where just old dirt is going to be brought up. And again, we have to be careful because there will be narratives, there will be stories, there will be lies put out there in the name of revenge, in the name of justifying violence to come out. And we're going to have these sort of terrorist type groups, these extremist groups, these Soros-paid groups, and activist groups coming up and surfacing, and they're going to use old stuff to justify their cause to go out and be on the streets and to be violent. So we need to be careful of that, and we don't want to get involved in that. We don't want to get sucked into that mindset. And they're going to do anything they can to provoke the people who are trying to do good things, who are standing up for positive things in the world. And they're going to try to provoke them into reactions, and we don't want to go into those reactions with them. Because all they're going to do is say, see, those are the violent people, instead of, and take that attention off the fact that the ones provoking things are the violent people. So a lot of inversions, which means we have to step back. We have to look at the objective facts, not just our perceptions of things. We have to not let people get to us. We need to step back and go, how do I approach this in a legal and ethical way? And that can be behind some of the delays, because to do it in a legal and ethical way can take a little more time, but at least we know that it's done in a way that can stick and that can hold for us. Now, from the 23rd on through the end of the month, we have to be extra cautious and alert, as accidents can definitely happen. So there's this death, this accident energy, especially where people don't have a clear mind. They're not paying attention. That can lead to accidents. Some of these accidents may be real accidents. Some of them may not be real accidents in there. And the key is we have to pay attention to what we're doing, what is happening around us. Things can happen that, we might be paying total attention and doing everything as we should and being safe and all of that. But other people may not be around us, so we have to stay alert to things. This is not going to be the time to be out on protest. And again, you're going to have agitators out there that are going to try to draw people into protest. They're going to appear as the other side in things, and that's not who they're going to be. Again, this is trying to frame people for things that they haven't done. And we're not going to be around that, because the protests can turn deadly. They can turn violent. There can be accidents that do not work well in these situations. So my suggestion is if you don't have to be in them, don't find other ways to make an influence and to speak your voice. Attempts to break down people. Again, we have to be careful of this. There may be things that are put out there and designed to break people's spirit. Kind of like the Charlie Kirk thing broke a lot of people's spirit in things. Fortunately, I think a lot of people are standing back up again and saying, no, this was the path. We have to sit down and have discussions with each other and not just be at war with each other, not buy into these narratives of one side or the other side and go from there. So be very, very careful of that. Don't let things break you down again. When you start to feel these breakdown spaces, these agitated spaces, just step back and observe, because there's more happening. Get down into the facts, listen carefully to things, and don't just take that surface headline or surface value on things. We're going to be doing a lot of learning in October. So the experiences, the things that happen, are going to be teaching us a lot. They're going to be teaching us about a lot of things that maybe we haven't paid attention to, things that we haven't known before. That's going to be coming up. We're going to need to draw on the past, ancestral wisdom, people, cultures that have been through similar things, and look, how did they deal with things? How did they resolve things? And draw on that wisdom and that information. And, you know, we still have a lot of people alive from different points in time, you know, from Hitler's time, from, you know, different wars and things like that. And those people have a lot of wisdom to share with us, and we need to draw on that. And we need to look at, when did other cultures go through similar types of things and how did they deal with it? Where can we make different decisions? Where do we need to replicate the decisions that they made? So definitely drawing on that. Our dedication is being tested in October. So remember that. A lot of things, it's just like, you know, this is the type of thing where the temptations come up. You know, when you're on a diet, you get tested by everybody eating everything you want all around you. And there, well, it's going to be similar in world events. You know, our dedication to a cause is going to be tested. Our dedication to bringing out certain things. We're already hearing about it with different politicians and newscasters and different people who just want to report the news, who just want to make their communities safe, who just want to bring a better lifestyle in for people, cleaner air, healthier food, and things like this. And they're going to be tested in their dedication to their job, to their work, to their cause, and things like that. So again, this can stir up a lot of stuff, because it can bring up a lot of stuff to see, hey, are you really going to follow through if this kind of danger is put in you? And there have been a lot of threats made on other people out there who are speaking the truth, who are trying to build this common ground, to build this open discourse between people, to have these conversations with people of different views and points. And, you know, we're going to have to stand strong in that. We're going to have to stand strong, and we need to support people in being able to stand strong through things. Bribes, temptations, we've got to keep our addictions in check, because wherever we have addictions, no matter what they are, whether that's money, that's food, that's lifestyle, that's praise and glory, or whatever it is, that's what they're going to work through. That's what they're going to use to try to get in and get us to give up values and ethics. We're going to see a lot of bribes going on between companies, groups, individuals, things like that. So again, that leads me to believe we may very well see more about how the pharmaceutical industry has bribed people along the way. We may very well see how different politicians have bribed people along the way, or how Soros has bribed people along the way. So these things could all come up, and I'm not saying exactly that's what's going to happen, but that's the type of thing that we could see happening and playing out in there. So we want to be very careful of that. Again, standing strong. There's going to be crimes with addictions as foundations be getting exposed in here. So a lot of crimes where people are committing crimes perhaps because of their addictions, because of those unworthiness patterns that are underlying the addictions that they're in, not receiving or having support in their life, and that's led them to become abusive and controlling, or to do other things. So it's going to be interesting too. We're going to learn how a lot of crimes are based in addictions. Again, whether that's addictions to sex or money or whatever it is, that will be there. And seeing those connections in there. So we're going to see addictions bringing issues or consequences. So for example, the addictions are going to bring out STDs. I think they're going to bring out a lot more. And, you know, hey, people have to choose whatever is their lifestyle, sexually, whatever. I have friends of a variety of different lifestyle preferences, let's just put it that way. But I think we're going to see more come out in connection to the trans community, what has created the trans movement, the different medications the pharmaceutical industry behind it, different other things behind it, that has led people to go into that mindset that has pushed it to be a fad, and how that actually is connected to different mental illness and prescription drugs that have been given to kids to go into these different mindsets, to create violence, to create different things. So I think we're going to see more and more of that that connection in there, and the consequences of the addictions that have been created. And I don't think the addictions are, again, a totally innocent thing, because addictions always come up because we don't have a resistance to them, and they're pushed on us. They're pushed on us through a variety of channels, whether that is media, whether that's peer pressure, whether that is drugs that kids are given, or shots, or whatever it is. There's a variety of channels for it. Food sources, or food sources even have addictive patterns built into them. So I think more of that's going to be coming out. And we must give up what is self-destructive during this time. It's going to be a great time, and that's going to show our commitment and dedication to God, divine source, and to values and principles and things like that. Lots of patience and observation, and that's what's going to expose the lies coming up. Because we do have a lot of deception and plans to sabotage, so we got to be careful. There may be people that appear like they're getting into the inner circle. You know, we've seen that where Trump sat down and had lunch or dinner or whatever, and he's had Gates there, and he's had, you know, Zuckerberg there, and people like that. And a lot of those people, they're trying to get in close so that they can figure out how to sabotage him, or other people. It doesn't have to be Trump, it could be other people. But, you know, that's how they work. And so we need to be careful and not just automatically assume that somebody doesn't see what's happening there. But we do want to pay attention, and we need to keep our guards up, because especially if somebody who hasn't been our friend suddenly wants to be our friend, they're probably up to no good. Honestly, they probably are. So only those in truth and integrity are going to be able to move out of this, and we need to stand in that space so that we are not sabotaged, so that we are not interfered with bringing, again, a good, positive lifestyle back into the world. And actions. Our actions at this time really need to be centered around being loving, kind, compassionate, and letting go of the judgment. The judgment gets us into so much trouble, and we've got to let it go. We've got to get back into treating one another, even if they've got differing views, with kindness, with compassion. That doesn't make us weak. We can have a lot of strength in that energy. And matter of fact, the ability to be kind in unfavorable situations is a huge, powerful, influencing force that can shift and change a lot of things in a lot of people. We must look beneath the surface of things, and great gifts can come in at this time, but they might come in a less attractive package. So don't get disappointed by the package something comes in, because the gift may be absolutely amazing as we get into it. Past, present, and future are all converging and intersecting at this time, and we need to resolve unfinished business, and this is always part of moving forward. We've got to clear the karma, remove unresolved business, and that is necessary before we can move forward. Now, our thoughts, just for the 1st through the 6th, so the first week of the month, we want to keep our focus on increasing, again, the peace, the harmony, the love energy, and we need to pay extra attention to our actions, our thoughts, our words, because what we do is going to be remembered. So if we're putting that unconditional love out, if we are putting out the peace, the love, the harmony, those sort of aspects, and not playing into these violence and these agendas and things like that, then we are going to have a big impact on people. Even if we don't see it, we're going to be that inspiration for people out there. And again, we've got to release the judgment. We've got to focus on compassion. And compassion is not a weakness. It doesn't mean giving everybody everything that they want. But it does mean keeping the heart in things that are important. And you have to have heart if you're going to move things forward. If you're going to bring in the values, you've got to have a piece of heart in there. You've got to have that to create from. Then from the 7th through the 29th of the month, so a good portion of the month, Our values are tested. Again, we have to stand strong. We cannot give in where these values are in place. And that is important. We've got to stay strict with that. Material things leave us with bigger issues. So if we go into that material realm and give up our values, we're going to create a lot more hardship and a lot bigger issues for ourselves. Those who reject God and who reside in bitterness and hate, they are going to lose what holds true value. And we just cannot be in that space. Again, we've got to make that shift if we're going to move forward. We need to say no, absolutely no, no, no to those temptations and breaking the addictions. When we do that, when we break those addictions, we say no to the temptations, we unlock freedom. And we're going to unlock happiness and victory and success. So we have a lot to gain when we say no to these addictions and these temptations and we're not persuaded in things. And we must say no to what doesn't serve us. And we have to say no before we can receive the blessings. We have to have the strength to turn down what is unfavorable before we can get into what is favorable in there. Nothing is going to move forward without pure motives, okay? The more greed there is in something, the more blocks and obstacles there's going to be. And the more we stand in divine service and we're doing the things to help, again, like our most vulnerable in our population, then that is coming into divine service, and that is going to unblock us in there. So we're going to have to care about people, all people we have to care about. And that is where we're in divine service. It's caring about quality of life. It's caring about humanity. It's taking care of people who truly are struggling versus taking care of people who have been brought in from other places to implement corruption. So we've got to get into this compassion in there. And then on the last 2 days of the month, the 30th and the 31st, our mindset really needs to be in a place to realize that success emerges from self-worth and value. So the more self-worth and value that we can create within ourselves, the more we create within the world. The more we can create it in the world, the more that expands outward. We go from ourselves to our communities, to our states, to our countries, to around the world. So we have to keep increasing that self-worth and value in there, and that helps to give us the strength to face things. And doing things with quality and integrity, keeping our mindset on, don't just do something for the sake of doing it. Put your whole heart into it, your whole self into it. Have integrity with what you're doing. Don't just go out there and rant and rave, but have integrity in the way that you're doing it. And that's where you're going to get heard more. That's where you're going to have a bigger impact on things. We want to stop competing. And this is a big thing. We've got to get out of this competition mode. For things to be resolved, we've got to, we're always going to have differencing of opinions, but we need to not be in competition over things. We need to be able to present things. We need to be able to pursue things freely, as long as they're not damaging and hurting people, and looking at these different options. And when we stop competing, we can actually start to find the value that others hold, and we can start to learn how to integrate differences in a way that brings about even greater benefits than what each is trying to do individually. We need to learn about what we are doing and how things work. So taking that time to, again, understand, this brings that patience back in. We gotta have patience with the process to be able to really make the differences that we want to make. We've got to take the steps. We don't get to just jump to the end result on things in here. And things must be brought to completion. So keeping our focus on, let's get things brought to completion. Let's bring them in and wrap them up so that we can use them to move forward. Let's tie off these loose ends. Let's tie off the lingering pieces that have been out there for a while. So I think when we talk world events, we're going to maybe see some court decisions coming through those last couple of days of the month. There could be something around that opens stuff up, that just then creates that green light to move forward with. Successes need to be shared with those in need and low income, and to So the successes that are coming through, we need to make sure that things are being taken and put into things like our Social Security, taking care of our seniors, taking care of the low-income people. And again, I'm not talking about the people living off the system. I'm talking about people who are trying to do something, but just can't bring enough in there, And I see, because I'm in there, and I try what I can do, and I've tried different things, and physically I can't go work other jobs because of a variety of disabilities I have, but the disability system says, well, you work too many hours being self-employed, therefore, you're not eligible. It doesn't matter that, I'm living in poverty, don't have shelter, don't have a lot of things. That seems to not matter at all. It doesn't matter that I'm trying everything that I can do to do it, and I'm being, in a way, penalized for that. And I'm not a victim to my circumstances. I keep my spirits up all the time. I keep putting my work out because it is what I can do. I may not be able to do certain things, but I'm doing the pieces that I can do. And I think this comes back to it, again, like our veterans and things like that have needs. They have genuine and real needs. And I've known veterans without homes, and I've had friends in that position, and it is hard to watch. And this is a time where we have to take our successes and feed them. Now, this is a time where could there be maybe some sort of dividend coming through, or word of a dividend coming through? Yes, I think those rumblings could be coming out in these last couple of days. And I think the way those types of things will be distributed is where we are having these successes as a country, whether, however that's coming in, if that's coming in through tariffs or whatever else that's coming in through. And then taking that and starting with helping those people who, have the lowest incomes, those people, again, who are in the greatest struggles, and putting our money there. So we could also see more money, again, coming into individual, even like food banks or things like that. And again, this restructuring, helping the people get off the streets. This is not about anything that's against homelessness. This, when you sincerely care about people, you want them off the streets where they can be safe and not living in filth and not creating filth for other people. And they can actually start to build a better lifestyle. They can get out of their addictions. They can get the help they need. So I think that's what we're going to see, is those are going to be the first priorities that come in and are taken care of with the successes we have happened. And then it's going to build more into, other income structures and other programs and things like that. But we have to take care of those who are most in need. And really, we're taking care of the needs before the desires. And there's always a balance in there, because sometimes something looks like a desire, but there's a bigger need underlying it that we haven't maybe paid attention to or recognized. Okay. Then in our soul's energy, and yes, this does play into politics, because the soul's energy is the heart energy. It's where we are operating in alignment with divine values and principles. And that needs to be in place. And where is that, likely to be vulnerable, or where can that help us? So when we look from the soul self energy from the 1st through the 13th of the month, so basically the first half of the month, we've really got to come into, again, this integrity, this truthfulness, and we're going to have to face the lies of our past and use this wisdom then to make wise choices and to create that favorable future moving forward, and to free ourselves of the pain that we've been living in, because most people haven't even realized the pain or the captivity or things like that we've been living in as a human race, not just one culture or one race or one belief system, as humanity. And we've been in that because of the lies, because of the deception that has been out there. And we've got to now face it. We've got to stop resisting it. Again, we need to lay down, some of the things that we've been fighting about, and recognize, hey, okay, I've been buying into lies about something, and this is on both sides of the fence. Again, it's on both sides. Both sides have had lies, both sides have had truths, And we need to stop and look at, yes, I bought into this lie. When different things were happening back in 2020, there were lies being promoted, and a lot of people bought into those lies. And all we need to do is face it and say, yeah, I bought into it. Okay, now I know different. Let's move on. And that's really what it's about. But again, we've got to face these things in order to move on. You can't move forward in the lies, because then you just reproduce the lies again in there. And we've got to look at it. Where did we go wrong? Where did we make a bad decision? Great, let's not repeat that again. And let's move forward with things. What do we need to change? What do we need to do differently? If this comes up again, how do we handle it so that we don't get going down these paths that disrupt, moving us forward? We've got to stop the self-sabotaging patterns, and that is stopped with truth and integrity. We have to be truthful with ourselves as much as we need to be truthful with other people, and vice versa. We need to be as truthful with them as we are to ourselves. And a lot of people think they're saving face by perpetuating the lies, putting the little white lies out, doing things like that, but they're really not. They're really not, because those lies just perpetuate more lies that perpetuate more harm and more danger and things. So we've got to stop our own self-sabotaging patterns. When we stop it within ourselves, we will change. Other people will stop. We have to be willing to do it for ourselves. And when we do, we become that inspiration for other people. When we become the inspiration for other people, they will also shift and change their patterns, because they see us doing it. This is the one powerful thing. I just heard James Corbin, I think is his name, talking about this on a video that he was doing about how do we change this mess that we've gotten into. We change it by doing something different. We change it by standing in the values, in the principles. That was the essence of what he was saying. We have to show people something different, because if they only see one thing, they will go into compliance. If they see differing things, they will tend to make wiser choices. They will tend to choose for themselves and not be influenced by narratives and things like that. So it's very important that we keep these different things alive and present in there, and that again we work on ourselves. This is that soul work on ourselves literally changes the world out there, and we need to just stay focused on a soul-based path moving forward, which creates strong foundations. And I'll tell you, having studied different world religions, almost every belief system, including ones that Christians believe are against Christianity, have a soul-based focus to them. They have this sense of harmony in them, and most of them are so much more alike than they are different. There's very few exceptions in there to people not wanting to be in a soul-based focus space, or a God-based focus space, or a divine source focus space out there. And the more that we bring that into things, the more we shift everything into our world. And this isn't about just one religion being predominant or one belief system being predominant. It is about values. Pretty much as simple as that. It's about values in there. And I know I need to wrap this up really quick. We need to release our anger, our bitterness for those who have sabotaged us. That forgiveness piece, forgiveness of our enemies, very important. Anger serves no one, and it only creates unfavorable paths for us. And then partnerships and connections are going to be really important. We need to pay attention to the false connections, and to those that, again, getting close to sabotage us, not fall into that. Know who our true connections in. And then in the last 2 weeks of the month on the soul's energy, again, we've got to know that value and that worth. We do not want to be seeking recognition or attention. We need to stand in the value and worth regardless of what other people are doing. Don't go into those competition patterns. We want to embrace the abundance flowing through us, and feeling fulfilled, feeling satisfied with things, and have joy where we work in combination with God and divine source, where we were working in these values. Feel that joy, feel that fulfillment that's coming through in there. And I think overall our fears and our worries are going to be low, especially where we see positive results for our efforts. But we will see the positive results by being in that divine alignment. So that's what I've got for October. I will be coming to you next month. I don't know from where. I don't know when, how, outside, inside, whatever. But we will get it done next month. And I look forward to seeing you then. And until then, have a great October. Work with the influences. Save this video. You may want to go back to it, share it out with people, and check out the work that I'm doing. The Code Journey has these insights in it, so you could work with it on a day-to-day basis, and you can pick that up on my website, compassioncodes.com. Go to the Books tab and select the Code Journey. Take care, everyone.